Right, Shalom, giving all praises and glory unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bahashem Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that rule well. Shalom to you, Arkim, teaching this word around the globe in faith and truth and in sincerity. This is the brother Caleb, back at you once again with another lesson to edify the Lord's elect. It's like I lost my train of thought. As always, I like to start by saying that we are the real Hebrew Israelites. As always, I say this. We are the real Hebrew Israelites. The real Israelites used to be called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians, and West Africans predominantly. However, you are going to get Israelites that do look like the other nations because Israel as a people has been scattered amongst all people throughout our various captivities. So therefore, if your seed line by your forefathers goes back to the man in the Bible named Israel, then you too are an Israelite, no matter what you may look like, because the book of Numbers 1:18 states that your nationality is determined by the lineage of your forefathers. So I'm just going to go in the spirit here on a topic I've been meditating on as I've been reading some scriptures today. And I want to talk about some of the finer points of the Bible, because it seems like something I've observed in my short time in this thing. Something I've observed is that it seems, I don't know if brothers are eating the whole roll, in the sense that there are many aspects to this truth. There's many aspects to the Bible. The Bible is not one-dimensional. It's multifaceted. And the reason why it's multifaceted is because it's really supposed to be making you a better person. You know, you're supposed to read of these stories and learn of these testimonies and all this history and all these events. And it should transform you as a man into a better person. You know, you shouldn't be reading the Bible and being the same old man that you were back in the world, doing the same things that you were doing back in the world, but yet claiming to be in the truth, because there's a spirit behind everything. And if the Holy Spirit isn't on a man, he ain't on a man, straight up, you know. And the scriptures say, you know, a tree by its fruit. You know, no good tree will bring forth bad fruit, neither will a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Now, I'm saying that because one of the aspects that something that I'm really very passionate about when it comes to this truth is the aspect of brotherly love, which is an aspect which seems to be being overlooked in many cases. Now, this is the thing. It's like Christians will say, God is love, God is love. And they try and put the Most High into a box where all he is just one emotion, love. But anybody who studied the Bible in depth knows that the Most High has many emotions. The Most High is a man of war. The Most High is a man of wrath. The Most High is also a man of mercy. You know, he will have mercy upon whom he will have mercy. He also mocks people. Read Proverbs, the 1st chapter. I will mock when your fair cometh. You know, the Most High has got a sense of humor, man. He will laugh at things that probably won't be funny to you when you're catching hell, but the Most High will laugh at your affliction if you've been an arsehole or, you know, whatever you might have done to deserve it. So the Most High is multifaceted. So is the Son of the Most High, Yahushai. And we all know that Yahushai was an austere man. No doubt about it, straight up and down. But he wasn't all just one thing. He wasn't just austere. He was also compassionate, meek, lowly, humble, you know. And those are characteristics that a man of the Lord should also have, you know. So if you're not portraying those characteristics, what are you portraying? In the sense that I'm going to bring out some precepts. This is Ephesians 4, from the first verse on down. I, therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you walk worthily of the vocation wherewith ye are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long-suffering, forbearing one another in love. So these two scriptures, these two verses alone contain a lot of meat, which you really need to be reflecting on and questioning your own conduct, because this is something I do. You know, I could tell testimonies about myself in the sense that I've got a lot of interests, you know, like most brothers do in this truth, like most brothers in this truth do. But one of my interests is, I suppose you could say, combat, warfare, fighting. You know, I enjoy the art of war in the sense that obviously I'm not going to be carnal and be going around and you know, being a brawler in the street or anything like that, because I'm a spiritual man now. But obviously back when I was in the world, through circumstances, I had to kind of fight very frequently. Not necessarily because I wanted to, but it's just the environment that I grew up in. It was, well, very hostile, and I received a lot of abuse, which is another testimony that I could go into another time. But basically, it had an impact on me, and basically, one of the reasons why it's kind of funny actually. One of the reasons why I learned to fight is because I didn't want to fight. But then after a while, you get so used to it that you start to learn to roll with the punches, and then you learn to fight back. And then you learn more about the art of war, and then, well, that's how I got into stuff like this. But the point of the matter is that I'm saying that because I want to make a point. When you're fighting someone physically, you know, let's say you're having a fist fight or whatever, if you're a wise person, you learn to respect your opponent in the sense that you never want to underestimate him. And you could look at, I'm not the biggest boxing aficionado, but you could look at boxing as a good example. You got two fighters, they're going to go at it, yeah? What are they going to do? Do they go straight into the ring? Do they say, okay, I'm going to have a fight with you, and they go into the ring that day? No. What they do is they say, okay, we're going to set a fight date. We're going to have a camp where we're going to train and do this, that, and the other. We're going to meet on this date, and we're going to have our fight. Why do they do that? Well, it's quite simple if you're a man of understanding. The reason why they do that is because both of those fighters, although they might not show it in the press conferences, in the interviews and stuff, they might show great disrespect to their opponent. Really, actually, they respect their own opponent very much, a good fighter at least, because that's the thing about respect. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you don't want to lose to your enemy, you have to respect your enemy, meaning that you need to understand what they're capable of, what the ramifications are of certain actions, and also how not to get caught blindsided by something that they might do. So you study your opponent, and when you study your opponent, that is a form of showing respect. Yeah. So even though you might dislike someone, if you're going to get into a fight with them, even if you just happen to, on that day something happens or whatever, you get into a fight, the good fighter will show respect to his opponent and not underestimate the opponent, because they know, if I underestimate this person, it could cost me maybe my life. Depends who you're fighting. So why am I talking about that? The reason why I'm talking about that is because if you're a wise man and you're going to respect your opponent, let's say you're going to war with an army, yeah? You've got 500 men, you're going to respect your opponent to find out how many men they've got. Are you going to be able to meet them with 500 and they've got 1,000? Or you've got 600 and they've got 350? What are the odds? You know, you weigh it up. And, you know, back in the ancient days, before we went to war, we'd consult with the Most High anyway, you know, as a form of showing respect to the Most High, because the Most High is the God of war. But I'm talking about that to say that if you respect your enemy that you know you don't like, then why are you not showing respect to someone who's supposed to be your brother? It's just wisdom. I hope I'm making sense in saying this, because it's not good to disrespect people. Even if you might not like someone, you should always show a certain level of respect to them. It's called basic human decency, you know. And there are certain ways that I've seen men of the hopeful elect speak about other men of the hopeful elect in such disparaging and derogatory ways that it makes me really question, are they really eating the whole roll? Why would you talk to someone who could be another potential man of the Lord like he's lower than a piece of shit, lower than the dirt on the street? What is to be gained from that? I mean, what does it say about you as a person that you can't speak with someone who you don't know through the Spirit who that person is? You just don't know, because none of us have got a label on our head saying, oh, I'm Isaiah, I'm Jeremiah, I'm Ezekiel. Well, we know who Ezekiel was, but you know what I mean? I'm Ezra's or whoever, or Daniel. We don't know who's who. You just don't know who you're dealing with. Furthermore, I'm going to put this one out there. The person who you might look down at as being an unprofitable servant or a weak link in the chain, or maybe they're not as maybe as deep as you perceive yourself to be, that doesn't give you the right to talk down about them. It doesn't give you the right to disrespect them. Because at the end of the day, you got to get deep with this. You got to understand how the Most High works. And what I'm saying is that person who you might be looking down on in a disparaging way and cursing out, maybe that person's lot was to be put in that situation to receive unfair treatment and then to receive a blessing from the Most High for enduring that unfair treatment. Maybe that person was put there to root you out by showing how malevolent potentially you could be in your treatment of them. It's not always as clear-cut as it seems. You got to be deep when you're dealing with these scriptures. You got to be deep when you're meditating on the ways of the Most High. No man can understand the ways of the Most High because his ways are above our ways, but there's certain traits that the Most High tends to favor. And one of the traits that the Most High tends to love is an underdog. The person who everybody thinks won't amount to anything, or they're, like Moses wasn't the most eloquent speaker. David wasn't the strongest looking of Jesse's sons, certainly not as strong looking as King Saul was at the time. Everybody looked at King Saul's physical outward appearance and he looked like he was the man. He looked like he was the shit. He looked like he had it all together, but guess what? He didn't. He didn't have it all together. None of us have it all together. Yeah? So if you're coming into this truth with a spirit of meekness and lowliness, and the scriptures do say you're supposed to esteem others as better than yourself, even though you might know deep breakdowns on this and that, if you're not being brotherly, you're only being, you ain't dealing with the whole role. You ain't a complete man, because you're not doing the things that Yahushua outlined that we should be doing in this truth. You ain't got it all together. But then you're turning around and casting harsh and bitter words at another man because you perceive he ain't got it together. Well, guess what? He might get blessed by you cursing him. Because don't the scriptures say, blessed are they when men shall curse you and say all manner of evil against you for the Son of Man's sake? So while you might think you're doing good to yourself by cursing out another potential man that's of the hopeful elect, you might just be heaping hot coals of fire upon your own head. You might just be heaping damnation upon yourself. So you got to be careful what you say in this truth, especially when you're dealing with another potential man of the Lord, because you don't know. You're not Yahushua. Furthermore, the scriptures say we're supposed to feed his sheep, not feed our sheep, meaning that none of these sheep are yours. They're someone else's property. If you have respect for someone else's property, you're not going to abuse it. Make sense? Let's say you got a friend and the friend lends you a precious comic that they've had for I don't know, since their childhood, and it's in pristine condition. They're like, you know what, Ark, this is a great story. Please read it. I want you to enjoy it. They give it to you in good conscience, and what do? You sit there, you bend it on your knee, or you ruffle up the pages, you screw it up, you throw it on the floor, you have your chair roll over it, you rip the pages, the cover's coming off. You hand it back to the brother. Yeah? Do you think that brother's going to be happy with you at how you treated it? Any brother who's into comics like myself, and you know, I know other brothers who are into stuff like this like myself. We have funny conversation about it. Any brother who saw that kind of treatment of something that they held dear and precious, they'd be livid. So therefore, how do you think Yahushua would feel if you were abusing one of his sheep? How do you think he's gonna deal with you? Do you really fear Yahushua as you claim to? Because a lot of men talk about, oh yeah, we've got to fear Yahushua, and you know, Yahushua is an austere man. But do you really understand? Because if you understood, you wouldn't be behaving the way you're behaving. Because you're bringing yourself in danger of judgment. Scriptures, let's talk. Ephesians 4. I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you walk worthily of the vocation wherewith ye are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering. What does long suffering mean? Let's look it up. Let's go. Where are we? Dictionary, please. Desktop, I guess. Where are we at? What was I looking for? Long suffering. Yeah, long suffering. I think that means basically being patient, man. See, because that might be a test for you. And the scriptures say, better are the patient in spirit than the proud in spirit. Long suffering, to endure injury, trouble, or provocation long and patiently. Long and patient endurance of injury, trouble, or provocation. Now this is beautiful because this makes me remember a very, very pertinent thing that one of the elders in the camp said. And it's always stuck in mind because it resonates with what was said in the film Rocky Balboa. In the sense that it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. You know, it's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And the elder put it this way: he says, it's not about how many punches you can throw in this truth. It's about how many punches you can take. And that is a very, very beautiful statement because that's kind of where I'm coming from in this truth, in the sense that, you know, as I said, back in the world, I got into a lot of scraps and I took a lot of hits, a lot of blows, and I learned to endure it. And it was all preparation for being in this truth. And something else that the other elder of the camp said to me really resonated with my spirit, actually. He said, you know, sometimes you've got to learn not to take things so personally. Now, those two statements combined, don't take things so personally. And it's not about how many punches you throw, it's about how many you can take. Basically, put me in the right state of mind to be in this truth, because there are brothers who are going to say all manner of evil against you. And obviously, it's easy to think, hang on a minute, that's not right, that's a lie. You know, that's slander, that's X, Y, and Z, that's bearing false witness. But then, you know what? Ultimately, be still. Just be still. Because if you're sincere in this truth and another man's speaking evil of you, that's actually a blessing to you for the fact that you're enduring it. You know, so while the brother might think that they're getting one over by running you down or bad mouthing you or stuff, really it's actually a blessing. So when you understand the rules of the game, as in the laws of the Bible, there's nothing really to worry about, because, you know, if you just keep doing what you're doing, if you're sincere, Lord's got your back. And the person who actually thought that they'd lay a snare for you is going to end up falling into the trap that they thought they'd set you up in. They're going to end up falling into themselves. I mean, a great example of that is Haman the Edomite. Is that in the book of Esther? He thought he was going to get the Jews hung, and he ended up getting himself hung, and his family, if I recall the story correctly. But the fact of the matter is that what I'm saying is that being brotherly is a cornerstone of this truth, and you can't neglect that. You can't be a fucking nigger in this thing. You can't be an arsehole in this thing. You've got to deal with brothers as brothers, man. Now we know there's going to be men crept in unawares, this, that, and the other, but at the end of the day, Yahushua knew Judas was a snake from day dot, you know. But did Yahushua lose it and start cursing him out the first day he met him? No, he had to let it play out. And Judas Iscariot had to play his part, and Yahushua had to play his part for the prophecies to be fulfilled. And this is the thing. Nobody's going to creep up into this truth that ain't supposed to be there. You know, it's not possible. It's impossible. You know, snakes aren't going to get on a chariot. Snakes aren't going to get on a chariot. It's impossible. Only the elect are going to be saved. So if you're coming into this thing in the spirit of like, it's a competition, like, I've got to fight for my seat on the chariot, and I've got to be better than this guy, got to be better than that guy, and oh no, you know, I feel intimidated by that guy because he's doing this and he's doing that. No, that's the wrong spirit to be in, man. Brotherly love can't exist there, because then you've got a spirit of contention. You know, and you're bringing contention into the mix, and that's not going to work, and it's only going to end up backfiring on you. So let's read on. I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you walk worthily of the vocation wherewith ye are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering and forbearing one another in love. First, if you want to know what love is, check out 1 John 5 and 3. Or 2 John 1 verse 1 and 6. But continuing on, I'm not going to get this pieces because I want to stay on point. Endeavouring to keep the unity of the Spirit in bond of peace. Peace is important, man. I'm going to say something. You know, the apostles say, now is the time of prophecy. And it is the time of prophecy. It's the year of hastening the coming of our Lord. But I need to say something because it's important. They make a joke about now's not the time to talk about King David playing the harp. I'm going to say one thing about that, though. The harp is a harmonious instrument. And in order to play a harmonious instrument, you need to understand the principles of harmony, which is why it's beautiful to study music. I mean, that's one of my passions, being a musician, whatever, songwriter. When you understand principles of harmony, you understand principles of harmony and discord. And I'm going to do an example, actually. I'm going to use an example here to sort of express my point. Sometimes demonstrations are called for. Let's say you're talking to a man and you're always shouting at him. Do you think that's going to get the best out of him? You know, as people, we've got a wide range of emotions because the Most High has granted us a spectrum of emotions. We're not going to be one thing all the time, every day. Like, for example, we know that the Most High is angry with the wicked every day, but we have to have a balance in our lives. If you're constantly focusing on all the negative things all day, every day, you're only going to make yourself sick. And I'm speaking from experience here. Take my word for it. You're only going to make yourself sick. So there has to be a balance in all things, you know. As Ecclesiastes says, there's a time to laugh, a time to weep, a time to mourn, a time to build, a time to tear down. You know, there's balance in everything. But my point is that if you want to encourage growth in a man, there are many ways to do it. And what I'm trying to say is that it's very easy to tear a person down. Very, very easy. There's no skill required in tearing a man down. But you know what really requires skill? Building a man up. It takes a lot of skill, a lot of love, a lot of empathy, tenderness, compassion to really build someone up. And you know what? Some people just don't have those skills. They just don't know how to build another man up. So therefore, frustration can set in because obviously the person who's trying to build the next man up thinks that the other man is not doing his part, but maybe that man struggles in a poverty that you might not perceive, because poverty can come in many forms. Someone could be a poor person in terms of monetary finance. They might be very poor financially. Someone might be poor physically, like their body's just not very strong. They're very frail. They get sick very easily. That's another form of poverty. Someone might be poor mentally. Like, for example, they might not be as deep as other brothers. They might not have the spiritual discernment that other brothers have. But does that make them inferior? No, it doesn't make them inferior. You just have to deal with different people in different ways. And if you're a teacher, or if ever you've worked in a teaching profession, that's what you learn. This isn't a one-size-fits-all thing, fortunately, actually. This isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. Not every man's going to come to this thing having the same spirit. There's the diversities of spirits, diversities of talents. You know, different men have different talents, different men have different preferences. Some men might prefer a certain type of woman. Like, for example, some men like Southern Kingdom women. That's his preference. Some men like Northern Kingdom women, such as myself. That's my preference. We're not all going to like the same thing. If we was all going to be the exact same, no, we're all going to speak the same thing. There's no variation in what we're going to speak. We're all going to bring out the words of prophecy according to how the scriptures are laid out. We're not going to vary in that because we're all supposed to sing the same song. But what I'm saying is that another man's approach to dealing with a situation might not be your approach. And therefore, sometimes a bit of understanding or a bit of empathy can go a long way, because then you can actually start to understand the person, and you can open up maybe more beneficial avenues of reaching out to this person. You know, the way that you might deal with something might not be the way that someone else necessarily deals with something. And therefore, if you're a man of understanding, you'll learn how to relate to different men in different ways, you know. But what I'm saying is that with all that aside, there's a basic level of respect that should be shown to other men in this truth. Very, very basic level of respect, which in some cases I'm not seeing, unfortunately. And to the people who it applies to, that could be to your detriment. Let's continue reading. It says, endeavouring to keep the unity of the Spirit in bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, even as ye are called in one hope of your calling. One Lord, one faith, one baptism. That's right. We're all going to be of one Lord, one faith, one baptism. One power and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. But unto every one of us is given grace. Okay? Some men are going to receive more grace than others. So that's what I'm saying. You shouldn't be looking down at a man and thinking this man's inferior, because he might have a higher measure of grace than you have. And his grace might be sufficient for him to be chosen. You see, the scriptures say many are called, but few are chosen. So while you may be called, that might be a chosen man. And it might not be how it looks on the surface, because as I said, the Most High tends to favour the underdog. And maybe that man's lot was just to catch hell from you. And if he endures that, maybe that will be sufficient. And he believes on Yahweh and Yahushua sincerely, maybe that will be enough for him to receive salvation. So you've got to be deep when you're thinking about this stuff. You can't just be looking at things from one perspective, you know. It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube. You know, I like to do Rubik's Cube. If you want to solve it, you can't just look at one side. You've got to think about all 6 sides and work on them all at once. You can't just, solve one side, then solve the next side, solve the next side. No, you got to think, I guess, 3-dimensionally. 6 sides at once you got to be thinking about. And it's like this truth, it's not just one dimension. There's many aspects to it. Let's continue on, because I'm talking a lot. But unto every one of us is given grace according to the measure of the gift of Hamashiach. Wherefore he saith, when he ascended up on high and led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men, now that he ascended, but what is it but that he descended first into the lower parts of the earth? He that descended is the same also that ascended up far above the heavens, that he might fill all things. Speaking of Yahushua. And he says, he gave some apostles and some prophets, some evangelists and some pastors and teachers, for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry and for the edifying of the body of Hamashiach, till we all come unto the unity of faith and of the knowledge of the Son of the Most High, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Hamashiach, that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness whereby they lie in wait to deceive, but speaking the truth in love, may grow up in all things which is the head even of Hamashiach, from whom the whole body, fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplieth, according to the effectual working in the measure of every part, maketh increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. This I say therefore, and testify in the Lord, that ye henceforth walk not as Gentiles in the vanity of their mind, having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of the Most High through the ignorance that is in them, because of the blindness of their heart, who being past feeling, they're being past feeling, they're not very compassionate, have given themselves over to lasciviousness, to work all uncleanness with greediness. But ye have not so learned in Hamashiach. If so be that ye have heard of him, and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Yahushai, that ye put off concerning the former conversation of the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lusts, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that ye put on the new man, which after the Most High is created in righteousness and true holiness. Wherefore, putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbour, for we are members of one another. Be angry and sin not, and let the sun not go down upon your wrath, neither give place to the devil. Now I want to speak upon this point. It says, be angry and sin not, and let not the sun go down upon your wrath. That's very important, because if you've got a problem with a brother, the best thing to do and the correct thing to do according to the law is that you're supposed to go to that brother and discuss the fault with him. And if he won't hear you, then obviously you take some witnesses, and then obviously it goes to the elders and the issue is resolved. You're not supposed to sit there festering on something that maybe someone said to you, in the past, and you're just sitting there festering it and thinking, oh, fuck that guy. You know why? Because if you do that, you're inviting demons into your realm, and those demons will take over you and they'll corrupt your mind, and they'll make you start thinking all manner of madness, and then you're going to speak very grievous words, because the Bible says the power of, life and death is in the power of the tongue, So if you're standing there and you're cursing people out, and you're doing it on a video, and you're not going to the brother directly and discussing the fault, you're not dealing with things the way the scriptures are ordaining you to deal with it. Yeah, there's going to be times where you might rebuke a person in a video, but if you're dealing with someone, in the truth, you're really supposed to go to them and discuss the issue with them face to face, if you can. Or if you can't do that, that's why phones exist. You can talk to the person. There's avenues, man. You don't need to be like, next time I see you, we'll discuss it. Because guess what? No man's promised tomorrow. The brother might not live to see tomorrow. You might not live to see tomorrow. And if you're still angry about something and the sun's going down on your wrath and you're holding it in you, and it's getting you to the point where you're shouting and you're cursing the man out and saying all kinds of things that might making accusations that might not necessarily be true about a brother, you're only heaping coals of fire upon your own head. And you might actually be blessing that brother by doing it if you're bearing false witness against them. So who really benefits from that situation? You certainly don't. So if you're wise, you would move with wisdom, and you wouldn't do such things. Because why would you jeopardize your own salvation over something that might just be a simple misunderstanding that, maybe the brother didn't understand or you didn't understand, and it might have been misinterpreted. You don't know. Try talking to the person. We've got mouths. That's why we should speak sometimes. And guess what? Sometimes we should listen too. See, it's all good and well to tell other people. Like, see, this is the thing. I want to talk about this. Me, I've done many jobs. Not boasting, but I've just done a lot of stuff. One of my professions is as a musician and a songwriter, and I've learned to play a wide variety of instruments during my time on this earth. And the instrument that I learned to develop the last, after learning many other instruments, like the last instrument that I was able to develop was my voice, in the sense that some things came quite naturally to me. For example, learning to play the piano, or learning guitar or whatever. But dealing with the voice, that was a different thing, because there was issues there. One of the issues that was preventing me from developing my voice was some of the abuse I'd received growing up. For example, I had a very abusive older brother who would often say to me, "Shut up, just shut up." And even if I was just asking a question sometimes, "Shut up." And I'd say, "But why?" "I don't like your voice. Your voice, it's just your voice. It annoys me. Shut up, shut up. I don't hear your voice." That's the kind of spirit he had. And, that's from a very young age. And, certain abuses and traumas can kind of stick with you. And obviously now I'm a grown man, and I'm no longer in the same dwelling place as my brother or anything like that. We don't live together anymore. I don't have to deal with him. But the psychological scars can remain, because you can get scarred up physically, but you can also get scarred up psychologically. And so when it came to singing, there's always these doubts in the back of your head, like, oh, well, people don't like my voice. I shouldn't really speak so much. This guy told me to shut up, and this, that, and the other. And if I'm going to be honest, one of the worst things you can do is tell another grown-ass man in this truth, to shut up. That's very disrespectful. You don't, as I'm saying, man, basic human decency can go a long way. There's ways to say things and there's ways not to say things. If you're like, "Just shut up, man, just shut up. What do you know? Shut up, shut up." What the fuck is that? What are you doing to another man's spirit by doing that? Now I'm going to use an example. I've been watching The Apostles, as always. You watch The Apostles. And I noticed that there's a guy who comes around their camp, and he seems quite simple-minded. I'm not saying that to be disrespectful, but, he's not really, he's still learning, he's still growing. But the fact of the matter is, he's growing. And he asks questions and he talks, and the apostles give him space to talk. It's all through the Spirit, because someone could say, "Oh, what the hell is that guy doing there? You must keep your foot when you go to the house of the Lord, and be more willing to hear than to offer the sacrifice of fools." Yes, it's true. You must be more willing to hear. But guess what? Not every statement is for you. Not everything a brother might say is aimed at you. So there might be someone somewhere out there who might be able to empathize or relate to something that a brother might say that you might think is stupid, or you shouldn't be talking about, it's a waste of time. Someone out there somewhere might actually relate to that brother. And they might think, "You know what? I see where he's coming from, and I feel the same way too." You might not, because you might come from a different walk of life. Because we're all going to come from different walks of life. All of us have got different histories and backgrounds. But you know what? A man of understanding will realize that not only might it be edifying to someone somewhere that you don't know, but secondly, sometimes people actually need to speak. Sometimes, there's different type. Again, going into things I'm interested in, psychology. There's different types of therapy, and you can have what's known as talking therapy. That's actually a form of therapy, talking therapy. So sometimes people just need to be able to speak about traumatic events. Now I'm talking from first-hand experience here, because I've got a history of seeing psychiatrists and doctors and going into hospitals and all sorts of things I've been through due to my own personal experiences, due to the traumas I grew up with and the abuse I received. And sometimes just being able to talk about some things helps a person to come to terms with things and understand things maybe a bit better. And furthermore, Sometimes you can learn a lot about a brother simply by listening to them. Then you can understand where they're coming from. Then you can maybe find some common ground to reach out to the brother, or you might learn something that you didn't know, in the sense that you might not have been through his life experiences and he's talking about something that happened to him. Maybe you think, you know what, man, that's an interesting testimony. And doesn't the scripture say they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony? Let's get it. Bear with me, I'm jumping around here. Bear with me, I'm just pulling up a scripture. Yeah, Revelation 12 and verse 11. I'm going to read it out because I want to finish off in Ephesians here. But Revelation 12 and 11 says, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb," which is the blood that was sacrificed by Yahushua, which we can't take for granted, "by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." So testimonies are important. You might not see any importance in it on a surface level if you're thinking carnally, but maybe that person just needs to air something. And you know what? Maybe by actually being allowed to air that testimony and opening up about a part of themselves that might be traumatic or something that caused them great pain, they might feel more comfortable around you and they might learn to trust you. If you're always jumping on someone over every word they say and taking it out of context and rebuking before you understand, then that's not really being brotherly. Because in order to be brotherly, you must show yourself brotherly. So sometimes things aren't always what they might appear to be. And even though it might not seem important or pertinent, everything's for a reason. And yes, sometimes maybe it's not so important, but over time, maybe that person will learn. There's a balance to everything. And let's use an analogy of a flower. Let's say you're trying to grow a flower in your garden. And how would you make that flower grow? Would you shout at it and stamp on it and call it stupid and tell it to shut up and all kind of stuff and say, why haven't you got leaves yet? You're still just a little bud. You're just a little seed. Why aren't you growing yet? Why aren't you growing yet? Everybody's going to go at a different pace. Some guys are going to go faster than others. Some guys are going to go slower than others. It's all through the spirit, man. But if someone is sincerely trying to do their best, who are you to criticize? Who are you? In all honesty. Because this is the thing, man. At school, they gave you tests. You do your exams, whatever, right? Some guys are good at maths. Great. Some guys are not so good at maths. Does that make them a bad person? No. Some guys are just more gifted in some areas than others. And in this truth, there's different diversities of gifts. Maybe a person's sincerity is sufficient enough for them to receive grace because they believe sincerely. Didn't the scripture say, suffer not these little ones to come unto me? They believe sincerely. The little ones. Let's keep going on Ephesians. It says, be angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath. Neither give place to the devil. You see, those two scriptures, Ephesians 4:26 and 27, they go hand in hand and they're very important because if you are giving place to wrath and you're letting the sun go down and you're angry and you're waking up the next day and you're more angry and then the next day you're more angry and it builds up, guess what? Satan's going to enter into your ass, man. Just like how when Cain was angry against Abel and decided to rise up and slay him. There's a reason why that story was written. And the first murder that ever occurred happened between brothers. It's spiritual, man. So we're not supposed to be like in that spirit of Cain towards our brothers. And as I said, life and death are in the power of the tongue, man. If a brother feels tense around you and he doesn't feel comfortable around you, he's not going to grow too good because he's going to be scared of you. Yeah, fear is important, but love's important too. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. But perfect love worketh no evil to his neighbour. Let's keep going. Here we go. Neither give place to the devil. Let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labour, working with his hands the thing which is good, that he may give to him that needeth. This is an important point. Ephesians 4 and verse 29. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good unto the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of the Most High, whereby you are also sealed unto the day of redemption. So maybe you got to consider what you're doing. You know, if you're spending all of your time watching other brothers for their faults, how much time are you spending looking in the mirror at your own? It's more important to spend time looking in the mirror at your own faults than it is to be sitting there with flipping binoculars trying to catch another brother when he stumbles. Yes, we've got to be vigilant because, you know, there's going to be men crept in unawares, but there's a balance to things, man. And I guess my whole point is that it grieves the spirit when certain brothers receive the types of treatment that they get unjustly. Continuing on. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamour and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. See, you shouldn't be malicious towards a brother, man. That's not right. You shouldn't be clamorous and having wrath and unjust anger towards brothers, man. That's not good. And what does that say about you as a person? Because, you know, if you study management, oftentimes people have very poor management skills. And those who have poor management skills, it comes across in their communications because they're always uneasy. They're always worried that the higher up is going to blame them for a mistake that occurs. And then they take that bitterness out on the staff. And then the staff are unsure of how they should best proceed because they're too scared to put a foot wrong. And everybody hates that manager. And guess what? When that manager leaves the job and goes to work in another company, everybody rejoices. Like, yeah, that arsehole's gone. Now, I'm going to use that in the case of Yahushua because if you remember, yes, Yahushua was an austere man, but he also called his disciples friends. That's a very important part of the scriptures because that was a really, really emotional part because Yahushua was like, you know what, man? I call you my friends. So I've got sidetracked because I'm thinking about that. That's one of the parts that gets me, you know, it gets you emotional when, you know, he's like, you know what, you guys are my friends, man. Let me go into it, man. I've got to go into it. Let me finish this and I'll jump there. It says, let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of the Most High, whereby ye are sealed unto the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamour and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as the Most High, for Hamashiach's sakes, have forgiven you. I'm going to read this again because this point is so important. Ephesians 4 and 32. And be ye kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as the Most High, for Hamashiach's sake, have forgiven you. It's important stuff, man. Let's get this word tender-hearted. For those of you who grew up in the Care Bears, for those of you who grew up in the 1980s, the leader of the Care Bears was called Tenderheart, I believe. I grew up in the 80s, so it says soft-hearted and sympathetic. I'm thinking about that. Yeah, you can't be too soft in this thing, but it's all a balance, man. You can't always be Dr. Angry Man. You can't always be... Let's put it this way, man. I'm going to use another analogy. Let's say you're doing building, construction, whatever it is you're doing, home decoration, whatever you're doing. Let's say you want to screw a plug socket into the wall. What would you use to do it? You've got a variety of tools in your kit, right? And let's say these tools in your kit represent your emotions. So let's say anger is represented by a sledgehammer, or a screwdriver would represent, I don't know, joy. I don't know, just hypothetically speaking. Are you going to use a sledgehammer to try and fix a plug socket to the wall? What would that end up doing? You'd make a big ass hole in your wall if you try and use a sledgehammer to put the plug socket on. So therefore, it's all about you picking the right tools for the job. And in order to know the right tools of the job, you have to have rule over your own spirit. You have to know who you are. You know, the scriptures say, a man that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. So maybe the problem, talking about the management situation, maybe the problem isn't necessarily what you think the problem may be. Maybe the problem is that you're using the wrong tool for the job. You know, maybe a better tool would produce better results. I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm not saying I've got all the answers, but I'm a thinker. I like to think deeply about things, and I'm just putting this video up as I'm talking raw, as I'm meditating on this stuff. Now, I did say I was going to go somewhere in the scriptures, didn't I? Where did I say I would go? Jumped out my head. We'll get back. I'm going to go to Matthew, the 5th chapter. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to read from Matthew 1 on down. It says, see, this is the question. Do you know Yahushua? Because if you know Yahushua, you know the different facets of his character. You know, you understand that there are many aspects to Yahushua as a man, and they're all documented throughout the scriptures and the various stories that are written in the stories. You know, it says, "Lo, behold, I come in the volume of the book." So you can't just always be reading the wrath scriptures. There's a balance. There's a balance, and that's what's needed in order for brotherly love to flourish. So let's read it. Matthew 5 and verse 1. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. So, let's say there's a brother that you don't particularly like in the group or in the camp or whatever, and you're giving this brother hell. Maybe Yahushua is going to look at that man's affliction and have compassion upon him, just because you was giving him hell. Not necessarily because he knows the deepest breakdowns on, you know, Revelation 4 or Daniel 2 or Daniel 7 or, you know, Isaiah 31 or whatever. He might not know the deepest breakdowns, but if he's got a sincere heart and he's being brotherly towards other men in his truth, maybe Yahushua will regard that more than he may regard you doing 500 videos a day, hypothetically. You know, because it's not just about doing videos, it's about your conduct as well. How are you carrying yourself in this truth? How are you treating others in this truth? You know, are you the wicked servant that's going to turn around and smite your fellow servant when the fellow servant isn't even your property? It's Yahushua's property. So who are you? Who are you to talk bad about Yahushua's property potentially? Who are you to tell that man that his works are no good? Who are you? Who am I? You know, I hope to. I like to think that I wouldn't do that. You know, because there's ways to do things. Okay, there's ways to get a person to improve. For example, you know, you don't always have to beat them with abuse. Abuse being shut up. What's that doing to a man's spirit when you tell them shut up? There's ways to say things, man. You can say, well, you know what? Thank you for your input, but maybe now it's not the time. Or thank you for your input. It's interesting to know that. I'm going to give an example, yeah? I'm a man of many interests, so, I find lots of things interesting, and there's things that I only have a passing knowledge about. And sometimes I find, you know what, it's interesting to see what other people are interested in, because maybe I might learn something. And I'm going to give a brief testimony here. The elder of our camp, one of the elders of our camp, we got talking, and he mentioned to me that he's very passionate about, cars and motorsport and so on and so forth. And it was a beautiful conversation. Now, I only have a passing knowledge of, cars and car history and motorsport and so on and so forth. It's not really something I've ever been deep into. But when I listen to the elder talk about it, I absolutely love it. And you know why? Because I see his passion. And it's nice to see when you're talking to a brother and he's excited about something and he's going into the details of it. I might not understand all the details, the finer points of it, but I'm learning a lot by listening. And you know what else? I was meditating on this through the Spirit, because someone might say, well, what's that got to do with the truth? What's motorsport or car history or, car design and engineering got to do with the truth? I'll tell you what it's got to do with the truth. That brother there, that elder, his knowledge of what it takes to make a car function at its top ability is a transferable skill, because he can take that knowledge and he can apply it to this truth, in the sense that being an elder, a camp leader, he has to make sure that all the members of that camp, that body, are functioning well. And if a part's not working and it's causing the car to function detrimentally, well, then that part needs to be serviced, or it needs to be replaced, or whatever it needs to be done to get that car back up and running to its optimal peak performance. So on a surface level, on a carnal level, someone would say, oh, but that's not got nothing to do with Daniel 12. It's got nothing to do with Jeremiah 31 or whatever. So just shut up, stop talking about it. It's not interesting. It's not important. It's not important. Well, a spiritual man would look at that and like the way I'm looking and be like, you know what, man? I respect this man's knowledge, because you know what? He can assess things. He can assess things and he can read the situation and think, you know what, man? Maybe this has got to change. Maybe that's got to change. And that's a spiritual skill. The Most High blessed him with that knowledge in that field, and that's his spiritual gift. To be able to see things like that. I don't have that particular skill to be able to look at a car and see what's not working in it and be able to say, you know what, maybe the downforce is too much at that point or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. That's why the car didn't win that year, and the next year they fixed it and it won the tournament. That's a beautiful skill, man. And I learned by listening to that. I've got my own talents. Many things that I'm interested in, art, the arts, music, martial arts, stuff like that. And in my own personal walk, I've been able to transfer the skills that I know into this truth. I'll give a prime example. Me, I'm very passionate about music, just as Apostle Gabar is. Again, I love hearing Apostle Gabar when he breaks down, and this song and that song. And this song came out in that year and that artist, because I love music history. I mean, what I would really love is one day in the kingdom for me to be able to sit down Lord willing, face to face with Apostle Gabar and really talk about music. I mean, really just go about talking about it and stuff like that. Now, I love the history of music, knowing what record came out in what year and what year it went to number one and this, that and the other. And I also like the performance and the writing side. So in my case, I can take principles of harmonic theory and look at situations in life. For example, in music theory, you have two major principles, harmony and discord. Yeah? Something that's discordant is going to be a horrible sound. I'm going to give an example, because I'm just flowing in the spirit in this one. This is a different type of lesson to what I usually do. Hope it's not boring, and I hope it's edifying to those who are hearing it. But let's do a little example. So, now this isn't... Please don't take this as me showing off or anything like that. It's just me demonstrating a principle. So, someone who doesn't understand principles of harmony is going to be a very discordant person. And a discordant sound isn't very nice. So, like if I was to go... Those are discordant sounds. So, discord is when harmony isn't present. So if you've got a discordant situation between men or brothers, then it's not going to be playing a song. Whereas on the other hand, if you have something that's harmonious, like let's see. You get the point. That's a harmonious sound. Yeah? Now, I'm getting kind of deep here because you had the house of Saul and you had the house of David. Yeah? What was the difference between the house of Saul and the house of David? The house of David was for the most part harmonious. Harmonious in line with the will of the Most High. The house of Saul is discordant and all kind of madness is going on there. They're not being, Saul was disobedient to the Most High. He wasn't working in harmony, in concord with the Most High's word. So the kingdom was taken from Saul, given unto David. And in the kingdom of heaven, we're going to have perfect harmony, amongst our brethren and amongst our families and everything like that. So understanding principles of music theory and harmonic theory can help you to understand, in a sense, when a situation is discordant, it's not working, something's not right. Now, that's just one of my personal interests, one of the things that I can apply in light of this truth. Other brothers are going to have different things that they apply in this truth and can relate to. And there's a reason why we didn't all live the exact same life before we came to this truth, because we're all going to come to this thing with different spirits, but we're all going to form one body. Not everybody's going to be an eye, not everybody's going to be an ear, not everybody's going to be a finger or a toe, but none of us can turn around and say, I have no need for you because you're an ear. I'm an eye, I'm more important than you. Or our nose can't turn around and say, oh, I'm more important than you because you're the foot and I'm on the head, so I'm more important than you. No, we all need each other as a body if we are indeed part of the body. Now, this is one of the things. If you are indeed part of the body, you'll be able to see the parts that maybe aren't gelling. Now, it's not my position to be doing this because I'm not no camp leader or anything like that, but I'm just saying that the Spirit will reveal things in due time, as it should, and it will. Now, let's finish off these precepts because I've done enough of my own talking, but it's just bringing up the topic of, are you being brotherly? Let's go. Matthew 5:1. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him. Now, this is how you know the disciples loved Yahushua, because if Yahushua was a cruel master, why would they have rejoiced when he was resurrected? Think about it. If he was always cruel, yeah, he did get on Peter sometimes, and he did rebuke the disciples sometimes, but if they didn't truly love him, they would have been, when he was resurrected, they'd be like, oh no, he's back. But they loved him because he was friends with them. So they rejoiced when he was resurrected. And they were sad when they saw him go up into heaven. See, these are the things I meditate on, man. These are the things that kind of get me emotionally in terms of the scriptures. So let's keep talking. Reading the scriptures, I should say. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Sometimes things aren't always what they might appear. Sometimes a brother might... The exterior doesn't always show what's going on in the interior. A brother might have a smile on his face, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's happy. You don't know what that man's been through if you don't know his history. You don't know where he's come from. You don't know what adversities he's endured or lived through to bring him to that point, because it's not always what it seems. You can't always judge a book by its cover. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. It didn't say, blessed are they that know all the breakdowns under the sun, for they shall inherit the earth. No, it said, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. You know, so if you're treating someone unrighteously, guess what? If they're of the elect and they're longing for righteousness, the Most High might hear their prayer. Yeah, you might well do. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see the Most High. I mean, what greater blessing would there be to be able to see the Most High? You know, the scriptures say no man shall see the Most High and live, you know. But we're all going to be transformed, and Lord willing, we'll be able to behold the glory of the Most High himself. It says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see the Most High. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of the Most High. So if you're going about being a talebearer and backbiting and speaking slanderous words about people behind their backs, are you being a peacemaker? Are you going to be called one of the children of the Most High? Well, if you're an Israelite, you will be, but you're not going to be one of the elect. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And here we go, this is a beautiful point. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were also before you. So this is the thing. If you're cursing a man out and being grossly disrespectful, you might just be heaping blessings upon that man's head. So what you're doing is actually backfiring on you. If you really understood this. Let me put it another way. Let's say you've got a woman, you know, your wife or something, and you're having problems at home. And there's something that your wife's doing that's been frustrating you. I don't know what it is. Maybe she doesn't cook your toast right in the morning, or she doesn't do this right, or whatever. You're getting annoyed, right? In order to resolve that situation, what would be the best course of action? Would the best course of action be to get a video camera, stand in a field, be shouting and cursing her out and punching the air, in frustration, mind you, and anger, and then you go home, and your wife never saw the video or whatever, and she's still doing the same behavior? What have you done? Have you solved the problem? No. Because you didn't address it head on. You didn't go to her and say, hey, look, I'm really upset about this. Could we talk about it? And maybe we can change things or see what's going on and we can get to the bottom of it. You know? The scriptures say, I'm going to get this, man. I'm going to get this. Spare me. Oh, there we go. Matthew 8. Let me I'll jump back to Matthew 5 in a minute. I'm going to get Matthew 18:15. It says, moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. And if he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. So, if a brother's offended you, you're supposed to go directly to that brother and talk about it. It doesn't say, grab a video camera, go into a field, start shouting, punching the air, being angry, letting the sun go down on your wrath. That's not what the scriptures have commanded us to do. The scriptures say, moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. And if he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee 1 or 2 or more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. So this is the thing. Even though you might think something about someone, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. You can't just go off of 1 witness. You know, that's not how this works. You know, the scriptures say, let all things be done decently in order. So sometimes before running off and getting upset about something, before you really examine the matter, maybe it's better to be patient. Understand first, then rebuke. Let's get that. Yep, there we go. This is a very important precept, man. Ecclesiastes 11. See, this is a long ass video I'm doing, and that's because these topics are very important, man. They're very, very important topics. Sirach, in the 11th chapter, and 7. Sirach 11 and 7. It says, blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first and then rebuke. You know, a lot of brothers are very quick to jump out with the rebuke before they understand. That's going off. That's just as much as going off as eating pork is. That's just as much as going off as committing adultery is. These are very important parts of the Bible that it seems brothers seem to have maybe neglected to read or neglected to focus on. I mean, what the hell is that? What is up with that? Do you love the Lord? Are you eating the whole roll? Well, then if you're eating the whole roll, you'll understand these things. It says, Sirach 11 and 7, blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first and then rebuke. Answer not before thou hast heard the cause, neither interrupt men in the midst of their talk. Strive not in a matter that concerneth thee not, and sit not in judgment with sinners. Back to Matthew 5. Right, so let's see, what do I want from this? Ooh. Yeah, here we go. This is beautiful stuff. This is exactly what I want. It says, I'm going to read from 14. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill can't be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, that it may give light unto all that are in the house. So, you know, your works are supposed to be a light unto other men, as a shining example of good character and good conduct. You know? So let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. So, you know, by your works, if you're doing good works, yeah, other men might see that, and it will be a light unto them. So it says, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am come not to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, to heaven and earth shall pass, not one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall teach them, and the same, shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it is said by them of old time, that thou shalt not kill, and whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of judgment. But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Racha, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. So if you're calling another man of the potential hopeful elect a fool, you're in danger of hellfire. Yeah, you might know all the breakdowns under the sun. Yeah, you might be doing 200 videos a day, but guess what? You're missing one important part of the puzzle. One very, very important part of the puzzle. Yeah. Get a couple more precepts and I'll close out. What do I want? Matthew 5, Matthew 2. No, that's not what I want. Matthew 25. It says, yeah, we've got the parable of the talents here, which we always bring out very frequently, but there's something after that which I think is pertinent to be brought out. And it says, here we go. Matthew 25 verse 31. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all the nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as the shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, and the goats on the left. And then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungered, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then the righteous shall answer him, saying, Lord, when saw thee hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we the sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Then he shall also say unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was a hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they answer him, saying, Lord, when saw thee an hungered, or athirst, or a stranger, and naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer unto them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of these least. Let me say it again. Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of these least, ye did it not unto me. And shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. This scripture is just as terrifying as Isaiah chapter 66 and verse 15. But it seems like brothers aren't really meditating on this. Because the thing that you perceive to be feeble might just be the thing that the Most High takes pleasure in, or grants grace to. You know, at the end of the day, look at when Yahushua was on the cross. What works did the malefactor who believed in him do? Did he do 2,000 videos a day? No. Did he go out on the street teaching? No. But he believed sincerely. And in Yahushua's moment at his lowest point, that man believed in him. That's why he said, today you'll be with me, in heaven. Because he came to him at his lowest point. So when another man who might sincerely believe is at his lowest point, and you come unto him in sincerity and kindness, that's like doing it unto Yahushua at his lowest point. And you never know when another man's at his lowest point, because not everything is what it may seem on the surface. So I've talked enough with that. Oh, maybe one more for the road. Surah 26 and 28. Yeah, I don't know if I need to get that one out. It's good, but I might just leave it there. The Spirit's telling me to wrap it up. So, with that, giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, B'Shem HaKadosh. I hope this lesson was edifying in some capacity. You know, it's not directed to, you know, cause contention or strife, but it's just something that I don't see a lot of brothers focusing on these finer points of the scriptures. Yeah, we know America's going to be destroyed. Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Yeah, we know Yahushua is coming back to render his anger with fury. Yeah, that's all important. It's very important. We're not taking away from that. But this stuff about being brotherly is equally as important, because it's all part of the truth. So that giving all praise and all glory unto Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, B'Shem HaKadosh, double honor to the apostles of great Muslim that will well. And until the next lesson, I do, Lord, win. Shalom.